So in this next lesson, I'd like to talk to you about something that the marketing gurus or the internet gurus call marketing triggers. Now, if you're anything like me and this is the first time you've heard that phrase, you might be thinking, uh-oh, this is about to get sketchy. But it's not. Bear with me while I explain. Your goal as a business is to create value in the mind of your customer so that you can exchange goods and services for money. These marketing triggers are simply time-tested methods for cementing that value into your customer's mind. You still have to have a very good product or service or offering to sell to them, or these marketing triggers will come off as sleazy sales tactics, and you don't want that. So make sure that you really believe in the product or service that you're selling before you start trying to apply these triggers. There are 3 categories of these marketing triggers that I want to tell you about. Those 3 categories are the category of connection, the category of trust, and the category of delight. I'm going to walk you through some of the different triggers to create connection, trust, and delight in your customer's mind. The first category of triggers is connection. Now, connection is a primal human need. So if you can get your customer to connect to your brand, you'll be well on your way to building trust, which is what you have to have in order to exchange funds for goods and services. You do need to work on building connection before you can build trust. And there's 3 different ways you can do that. The first one is community. So you might have a Facebook group, or you might have private forums like we do for this e-course. You might have a community of people on Instagram that are connected by a hashtag, or you might have a community of followers on YouTube. There are lots of different ways to build community in the online space today. You can get creative with how you build yours. Another trigger in the connection area is the trigger of the common enemy. Now, this is sometimes hard to use in business because enemies typically aren't nice things. But if you can unite with your audience on an agreed villain in their lives or in the world, you'll start to build community based on the agreement of that value. Charities can do this really easily. So, for example, we have Charity Water. The common enemy to the customer or to the donor that's contributing to Charity Water is simply the fact that people around the world don't have enough clean water. We unite as a community behind Charity Water to support them in the cause to bring clean water. And that's what using the trigger of the common enemy looks like. The third and last trigger that you can use to help build community is very simple. It's interaction and conversation. So this just means responding to comments, leaving comments, and talking to your audience and your customer base. It's easy to do and definitely puts you well on your way to building the trust that's going to create value in their minds. The next category of triggers falls into the trust category. So we needed connection to help build trust. And now that you have connection, you have an opportunity to build trust in your customer's mind. And if you can build that trust, you're most likely going to be able to create value and help them solve a problem that they're having. There are several ways to create trust, and some of these are funny again, but just bear with me. Not all of them are going to apply to you, but I still want you to know what they all are so that you can recognize them when you see them. You'll also start to see how other brands use these triggers in their marketing communications, and being able to recognize these is a great way to learn more about marketing and different marketing techniques that you can apply to your business. The first one is the trigger of social proof. This could be something like the number of followers someone has on social media, or it could also be exhibited by testimonials on their website. At any rate, it is something that the brand is showcasing that proves they should be positioned as an expert in your mind. The next trigger is the trigger of authority. So for this one, I want you to think about what makes you an expert in your field. We've talked a lot about your strengths, and probably you have at least 1 or 2 strengths that you feel like you could apply to give you some type of authority status. Think about how you can use those in your brand. The next trust trigger is easier said than done, and that is commitment and consistency. You need to be committed and consistent about communicating with your audience and your customers. The reason that's easier said than done is because if you're a creative entrepreneur like me, you're very prone to chasing bright and shiny things or new ideas. If you can implement a system in your business to help keep you consistent, you'll build trust with your customer, and that will help create value in their mind. The next trigger I want to talk to you about is the trigger of reciprocity. And that's the concept of giving something to someone, most of the time for free, so that they'll give you something in return. We see this used regularly when someone has a spot for an opt-in on their website. They will ask you to give them your email address in exchange for maybe a free PDF or a download of tips and tricks. That's the principle of reciprocity at play. The next trust trigger is likability. People want to be connected to a brand that's friendly. So what makes you likable as a brand? Well, for one, smiling a lot and being interesting and engaging with them. So a lot of the tips and tricks I gave you on engaging with your audience on Instagram can definitely work towards your likability factor as a brand. The next trust trigger is credibility. This ties in with authority, but implementing the trigger of credibility could be as simple as listing where you went to college or the type of degree or training or education you've had in your field. And the final trust trigger, and this one is the funniest one of all of them, is celebrity. So not everyone has this. Not all of us can be Kim Kardashian, but those of us who know who Kim Kardashian is know that she has a certain amount of celebrity. Now, we may not necessarily trust her because of that, but we are going to follow and engage and connect with her brand, and we're probably still going to watch her show just because we're interested in that. So the celebrity trigger is loosely tied to the category of trust triggers, but it's still important to notice, and I hope you'll take some time to see how other brands implement that in their marketing strategies. The last set of triggers has to do with surprise and delight. I'm a big fan of Seth Godin, and in his blog, he often talks about how it's our goal as brands to surprise and delight customers. There are 4 delight triggers I want to talk to you about today. The first one is anticipation. People love sneak peeks. If you've got a big project in the works and can leak it out little by little over time, your audience will love that. They're curious people. They're going to engage with what you've got building and what you've got going on. Another delight trigger is the trigger of surprise. Every now and then, if you can throw your audience something new or free, you'll get both that surprise element and that reciprocity factor working to your advantage. The third trigger that delights your customer is the trigger of novelty. So anything that's new or different or upgraded, these are always important things to highlight about your products and services and offerings. The fourth and final trigger in that delight space is the trigger of curiosity. As humans, we are easily intrigued by things that we know nothing about. We're very curious. A lot of times you'll see the curiosity trigger used in headlines on Facebook trying to get you to click on a video. The headline will say something like, "You'll never believe what this baby goat did 5 minutes after she was born." We have to see what the baby goat did, so of course we're going to click to find out. That completes the list of marketing triggers that I wanted to tell you about. You can use this list to look at your overall marketing and communication strategy and figure out how you can incorporate some of these elements into your communication strategy. Not everyone needs to incorporate every trigger, and the triggers don't necessarily work uniformly for every brand. But you do want to make sure that no matter what you're doing in your communication strategy, that you're creating connection, which will build trust, which will give you the opportunity to surprise and delight your customer. That's going to create value in their minds and make you a profitable and successful business.